Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever wondered how a place, a whole community, can just lose its way? Well, today we're diving into a modern fable about a town that completely forgot how to be kind, and the unlikely heroes who taught them to remember.
You know, every story about losing something big has to start with just how beautiful things were before. And for Stone-in-the-Glen, lovely was probably an understatement. This quote, it really sets the stage for how far this town is about to fall. Okay, so let's try to picture the Stone-in-the-Glen that used to be. What made it so special? It wasn't just that it was pretty to look at. No, it was something much, much deeper. It was a real community.
I mean, you can almost feel the warmth here, can't you? This was a place defined by people looking out for each other. Mending a fence, sharing a smile, these weren't big deals. It was just what you did. The town was literally built on countless small acts of kindness.
But, as we all know, even the most wonderful things can be incredibly fragile. So what happened? How does a town like this forget its own heart? Well, it all started with a single spark and the arrival of fear.
The town's heart, this magnificent library that held all of its stories, all of its questions, was just gone, reduced to ash. And that fire, it didn't just leave a hole in the middle of town, it left a void in their spirit, a space that, unfortunately, was about to be filled with something much, much darker.
And right into that void of confusion and grief walks this dazzling stranger, a self-proclaimed dragon hunter who promised he could keep everyone safe. He just captivated the town with these grand stories, and before they knew it, he was their new mayor.
And this right here, this just lays it all out. The mayor, he took their fear and he weaponized it. He twisted neighborliness into suspicion. He convinced them that being generous was just plain foolish and that you could only really trust yourself. The town literally closed its doors one by one.
So while the town was busy shutting itself down, our heroes were living out on the margins, completely misunderstood by the very people they were about to save.
Okay, so first, the Ogress. And I want you to just forget every monster you've ever read about in a fairy tale. The Ogress of Stone-in-the-Glen was this quiet, thoughtful being living all alone on the mountain. She wasn't a threat, she was a careful observer, with a really kind heart. This description just perfectly captures her gentle power, doesn't it? Skin like granite, but heavy feet that trod lightly. It's like she's a part of the landscape itself, the complete opposite of what the fearful town imagined. And then you've got the Orphans. At the very same time the town was forgetting what community even meant, this little found family was holding on to that one idea for dear life, that they belonged to one another.
And this wasn't just some nice little motto for them, this was their core belief. It was like a quiet act of rebellion against the selfishness that had taken over Stone-in-the-Glen. While everyone else was building walls, the orphans were just reinforcing their bonds.
So how does a town this broken find its way back? It doesn't happen with some big, heroic declaration. Nope. It starts with a little glimmer of hope found in small, anonymous acts of kindness.
Late at night, under the cover of darkness, the Ogress started to share what little she had. She would quietly leave these gifts on the doorsteps of the very same people who were so afraid of her.
And we're not talking about grand gestures here, just cookies for the cobbler, fresh rolls for the constable, small, consistent acts of generosity that started to really confuse the suspicious town. It was like a quiet reminder of a kindness they had totally forgotten.
No one could figure it out. And you know what? In that shared mystery, a little bit of wonder started to seep back into their lives. It created the first tiny cracks in the mayor's story of scarcity and fear.
And this brings us right to the heart of it all. See, the town didn't need a hero to go slay a dragon. It needed to face itself and relearn a fundamental truth. It needed a reckoning.
And this is where the orphans jump in. They had no money, no power. But they had paper, paint, and a whole lot of hope. So they started crafting these beautiful handmade books and secretly leaving them all over town. These little books were like a quiet bombshell, because they didn't have stories about dragons or heroes, no. They just asked a simple question that forced the entire town to finally look in the mirror and see what they'd become.
Inside the books, over and over, was this one question: what is a neighbor? And it was illustrated with pictures of their own townspeople, familiar faces they passed on the street every day, but didn't really know anymore.
And right there, in the pages of those simple books, the town found the answer they'd lost. Being a neighbor has nothing to do with being the same.
It's about a shared humanity. It's about helping and caring and just standing together.
And once that truth was out there, man, the change happened fast. On day 1, people were just reading the books. By day 3, neighbors are actually coming out of their homes, sharing food, talking. By day 5, the mayor's power, which was only ever built on fear, just evaporates. And by day 7, the townspeople are greeting the ogress not with fear, but with smiles. The community was rebuilding itself, one small act at a time.
So in the end, Stone-in-the-Glen wasn't saved by some flashy dragon hunter. It was healed by the quiet kindness of an ogress, the hopeful creativity of a family of orphans, and the simple power of a good question.
And that leaves us with that same question, doesn't it? What is a neighbor? It's a question worth asking, not just in a story, but right here, in our own communities, every single day.